Hi, good evening, everyone again out there that are friends and followers of the American Artist Professional League. Once again, it is Thursday at 5 o'clock. I'm a couple of minutes behind, but I am John Bandish, one of the board of directors here that does social media for the American Artist Professional League, coming to you live from not so sunny southern coastal Delaware, doing this again every Thursday at 5 o'clock. Saying hi to you, our members, who have been generously donating your time coming on here and talking with me, and it's been fun conversations, and hopefully this continues to grow. We've been getting a lot more people signing up. In fact, I think we've got now almost we have all of October, I believe almost all of November, and we're getting into December right now as well. So people are saying hello from all over. Hi, so glad to be able that you spend some time with us and join us tonight. We're going to be talking with fellow American Artist Professional League member Carol. She is an amazing painter. She's going to be signing on just in a little bit here. So we're going to plug a couple of things here again right now on the website. We have the 500 and under sale that's happening. So if you click the links in the bio, it'll take you to the website, and you can click all the links and you can see and you can own some amazing realist art for $500 or less. I mean, these are great gift idea items, and you stop and think about it for the young art collector, somebody that is just getting started in their art career, and then also for the seasoned art collector as well. It's a lot of fun to be able to own something at a more reasonable, affordable price. So it's art that is really for everybody, truly for everybody in that sense. So, and right now we still also have Realism on the Hudson that is happening up there in Beacon, New York at the Howland Cultural Center. That show is still going on. This is the last weekend because the show ends October 1st. So that's been a great show. We've sold a bunch of pieces at that show. We had some of our other board of directors that were up there, including our president. They did a special live session with us, gave us a tour of the center, showed a bunch of paintings, and that was a fantastic thing. That was a great treat. We're going to do some more special things coming up in New York in November. I'm going to be up at the Salmagundi Club. We're going to do some live sessions during intake of the art. Possibly during the hanging, and then also during the show and ceremony awards. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So we're just waiting for Carol to sign on to us tonight. And again, if you're interested in participating, we have space. Like I said, that I think there's one more space left in November. We're not going to do Thanksgiving. At least one Thursday throughout the year that we're not going to do an Instagram Live. That's time to be with your family. That's the most important time, if you ask me. But then we have December, and then it's not too early to start thinking about next year. You can, if you're interested, you can go to our website, aaplinc.org, or click the links in our bio here on our Instagram. It'll take you to there. And you can sign up. If you don't see an available date, you can send a message either through here, or you can send a message in an email. One way or the other, we'll get it, and we'll try to work out a day that'll work for you. So it's never too late to start thinking about January and those cold winter Thursday nights when you're tucked away in your studio or your house trying to stay warm, to want to come on here, and you have an opportunity to talk about your work and your artistic journey, and it's somewhat of a simple process to get onto. I see Carol saying you don't see the camera icon to click. If you're on your phone, there's 4 little icons at the bottom of your screen, and there's one that looks like an old movie camera with a plus sign in the center of it. That'll let you to go on. Let me see if I can't actually go and try to. I have no requests, so I can't actually request for you to get on. If you're on a desktop, I believe it's the same thing, Carol. I'm not so sure about that. I've never actually done Instagram on my desktop. I know that sounds kind of weird. I'm in that weird age range where the phone and PCs and laptops, it all kind of mixes together. I'm not exactly the most tech savvy. So as we're waiting for Carol to get on here, we'll just kind of talk to you just a little bit here too about the whole point of starting this, which really came as a direct conversation in one of our board meetings where one of our board members had brought to our attention that some of the membership at last year's Grand National Exhibition, the GNE as we call it, that they didn't know who the board members were. And I had said, well, how about we do this thing where we can start with board members and do this Instagram this Instagram live thing. And there's Carol. We're going to get her in now. View request. Go. It takes a couple of seconds sometimes because my fat fingers don't like to to make it work. But we're going to get it going in a second. But that's kind of where the brainchild of this whole idea kind of started from, was just this kind of fun suggestion. And I was actually talking with another painter who's a part of other groups down here with me in Southern Delaware, and we were talking about this because I don't want to give away too many secrets of what's going to happen coming forward. But we were both talking about how great of an opportunity it is just to be able to talk about your artistic journey, and then what that sharing can do for somebody else who may be coming across this either now here live, and we're trying to get this to work here. I'm clicking accept. It usually doesn't take this long. Once I click accept, it usually kind of comes up, but it's saying it's unable to join. But we're going to figure this out. Super low tech here. We don't have a whole lot going on. Go live with Carol Artist. We're clicking live. I swear I'm trying to do it. But the idea has kind of grown now into wanting to be able to give a platform to you, our membership, and something that I experienced personally, this sort of aversion, if you will, towards realist art in a lot of other artistic circles. That's kind of been a common theme in talking with people from all different walks of life, different parts of the country, different age ranges, different approaches to traditional and realism-oriented art. Specifically, we've had mostly painters on, but people that do some sculpting as well. And I think it's been a success in the sense that, for one, you're not out there alone if you're feeling something similar, that you've experienced some of that with your artistic journey. But the more that we get together and use these social media platforms to be social with one another and to talk with one another, you can share stories. It's a bit of it's for me, very selfishly speaking, it's been very uplifting in the sense that, okay, we're all in this boat together. It doesn't matter if you've been painting for 10 years or 10 days. If you've experienced this, you're not in that boat alone, right? And I think some of those trends are trending differently these days, which is a good thing. We are trying here. We are trying. I swear. Fingers crossed. I can't cross them very well. But we're definitely trying to get this started here. I swear to you out there watching us. So I've got 9 people that I can see that are watching us. You don't want to just see my face. I get it. We want to have a nice conversation. It's for whatever reason, it is just not allowing me to connect. So I think what we're going to do is try to, oh, never mind. I spoke too soon. Here we go. We are live.
I can't see anything. Okay, the camera's turned the wrong way, Dan. Shit.
That's okay. One day we'll get the hang of this. Well, as we're kind of getting through, there we go. Hey.
Sorry about that.
No. That's okay. That's to be perfectly fair, right? This platform is great for the sort of low key, low tech, if you will, approach to something like this. I mean, I'm not very tech savvy. I literally have a tripod with my phone, sitting on here. So It's for some people it's worked really well, and for other people it is not. And I have zero answers. I'm not a tech person, so I couldn't tell you why. It's some people it's easy and some people it's not. But here you are, and that's the most important thing.
I can't see you anymore, but I can see myself.
Okay, well, you know what? We'll take that. You don't want to see my face anyway. There's nothing here that you're missing. So well, let's we're a couple minutes behind, but that's fine. We have plenty of time. I tell people that I always try to keep these interviews to about 30 minutes or so, and really that's just because most people's attention spans are just not going to be much longer than that, if that long at all anyway. Where I think they said that with that human beings these days, our attention spans are just a split second faster than goldfish, and that should tell us something about about the world that we live in, right? So there's plenty of time. I'm just saying I've only ever tried to keep them brief, just to keep people's attention. So we can go as long as we want. There's nothing stopping us. So well, let's just kind of get started then. And you are an amazing painter. I mean, an introduction from me is probably doing you no justice. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves to everybody tuning in right now and everybody tuning in later in the future, and say who you are and what you do, and kind of a little bit of a brief background of your artistic journey.
Wow. Okay. Carol Loeb. I'm actually Canadian and got into the AAPL by accident. I applied one year and I got accepted, and because they accepted me, you kept me, which I really appreciate. Originally, I was born in St. Catharines, which is near Niagara Falls. I taught for 32 years, and it wasn't until 2012 when I started taking myself more seriously as an artist and decided to launch a career, so to speak. And I've taught in 6 different countries. It did influence my art. I have a art training at Fanshawe and McMaster University, tons of workshops along the way. And I paint mostly landscapes, both rural and urban. Urban seems to be what I focused on lately, but there's the one that's in the show for the Grand Nationals on the wall behind me there. So good.
Super excited to see that in person. I mean, your work, again, I think I'm doing a disservice almost by not saying, I mean, if for people that are out there that have not seen your work, I mean, it's unbelievable. The level of detail and the commitment that you show within each of your pieces is truly unmatched by just about everybody I've ever come across. So figuratively, hats off to you. I have hat here, so I'm not going to actually take my hat off. Nobody wants to see that mess. But figuratively speaking, hats off to you. It's amazing work. I'm so excited to see it in person. Talk a little bit, if you will, about how you came to be doing that type of cityscape scene, because you know, there's a real uniqueness to your compositions.
Yeah, you can probably tell that I like Hopper and his cityscapes, his sense of composition. I really like his stuff. When it comes to urban landscapes, I was doing mostly rural landscapes until the pandemic hit and nobody could go anywhere. The streets in town were empty, which made it this wonderful opportunity to stand back and really see a building, and you could wait for the light and not worry about, you know, cars or anything getting in the way. I also have to say I like the mystery of De Chirico and those kind of shadows and the mystery of it. So I switched to urban landscapes basically because I couldn't get out into the countryside. So I was stuck in the city. I was living in Montreal at the time, and that's where the focus is. That building behind me is a building in Montreal, and there's a story behind it. I love this painting, or the building anyway. That little pink, I call it a penthouse. It's on the top of a tower. If you get to see the piece live, that actually is pink. that someone broke into this huge complex that's derelict, and they don't use it anymore. And they got up there on a Saturday night and painted the whole thing Barbie pink, put turquoise shutters up and little flower boxes with plastic flowers in it. And it's there, and no one knows who did it. They did it without getting caught. They managed to get a Christmas tree up there every Christmas with lights and everything. And they're trying to find out how they're getting in there and up, because it's all closed off, and who's doing it. But it's like Montreal's little Banksy, and I just love it. And it's got graffiti all over the place. So for me, it's this ongoing modern piece of art. So anyway.
That's such a fun, interesting connection to something that is kind of ties sort of two different art worlds together. I mean, here you are, a very realist, traditional type of painter, and very good at it, by the way. But then you're taking this sort of almost like an installation art piece, and then again, like the mystery of who's doing this, and like it's almost like, does it even matter? Like if they don't want the recognition, that's totally fine. That's their choice, if you will. But how much fun is it to be able to sort of blend these two? I mean, dare I say, very disparate types of art into one thing, right? And then there's this fun, great story behind it. I can't wait to see that piece. I've seen it on Instagram now, and I can't wait to see that piece in person.
Thank you. I'm thrilled. And by the way, I found out that I made signature status by your little blurb that you put out. I didn't know that I got accepted into the AAPL with signature status until 2 days ago when you put the blurb out.
Once again,
So,
congratulations. Again, I think anything coming from me is not doing enough justice. But again, figuratively, hats off to you, because it's well deserved.
oh, thank you.
So kind of switching gears a little bit here. So we're talking a little bit about your artistic journey and your background and sort of what you were doing I mean, I think it's everybody's been affected by the global pandemic in one way or another. I think it's interesting. I think one day someone's going to have a fantastic documentary detailing how the pandemic affected creative people, not necessarily just visual artists, but musicians. I'm very curious to see how all these different social media platforms, for one thing, affected it. I'm a big Bon Jovi fan. He was jamming with people on his Instagram Live, and I just think that was one of the coolest things to do or whatever. So it's interesting hearing from you that how the pandemic affected your work. I mean, pretty drastically. You went from doing rural landscapes to doing these cityscapes. It's pretty awesome. So, one of the questions that I send to people, and then I ask her about, any kind of current trends, and that kind of touches on that. And you sort of touched a little bit referencing Hopper, but are there any type of, whether they be movements, time, places, artists, groups of artists that have been a big influence on you?
On a personal level, I think the greatest influence on my art was my Uncle Will, William Pugh. He lives in England, and unfortunately he passed, but he is the most fascinating, interesting, the smartest person I've ever met in my entire life. And he's an artist, an inventor. He worked for Palitoy as a toy designer. Anybody old enough that knows Chatty Cathy? It's my Uncle Will. Baby Tears, my Uncle Will. Barbie's flexible arms, the skin that goes over her joints that used to look really ugly when they first came out so she could bend. That's my Uncle Will. And he invented the squeezed limes and lemons that you get in the supermarkets with real juice in them. And he's just fascinating. He's the only person I've ever met with a completely photographic memory of anything he's interested in. He remembers. So here's this, when I'm going around England and I'm spending time with him or whatever, he's a walking art historian, tour guide, mentor. And when I was in England, we sat in Ludlow on the river and painted together and sketched, and uh, just his enthusiasm and inspiration, like who couldn't be inspired by that? Intimidating, because I mean it was a lot to live up to. If you decided to call yourself an artist in the family, you were always compared to him. And I mean, I, he's just levels above me. So, but and that's personal. I taught for 32 years at a high school level, and I've got to say, probably my strongest influences, aside from like a personal thing, were my students. They they were always open to new ideas. You'd give them a problem and say, okay, let's solve this one creatively. And, you know, you'd show them how to get to the moon and they'd go to Mars. And on that journey to Mars, I was constantly learning new things. And I loved it. And you just kept going because of them sometimes. And then there's a Canadian artist, Lauren Harris, who is a fabulous landscape painter. He's my favorite painter all time, and he does rural landscapes and beautiful painter. So anyway, those are my influences.
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, you hear stories about teachers, whether they're at a high school level, the collegiate level, an elementary school level, primary level, that talk about their students being such great inspirations. And here's a wonderful example of that. That's a fantastic thing. And again, you know, if you're out there watching this with us now, hi again. This is the American Artist Professionally coming to you live again every Thursday, 5 o'clock. We're doing this. It's a testament to out there. I think that sometimes we as creative people sometimes get in our heads a little bit too much sometimes, and we often think, you know, you're in your studio. It can be a solitary place, which isn't always a bad thing, right? But sometimes it can actually be a little bit of a lonely place, and you kind of get into your head and you don't realize sometimes that you are not alone. That there are all of these other people that are out there who are rowing the same boat as you, so to speak. I love using that analogy. We're all in the same boat together type thing. So that's fantastic. So kind of along the lines of that, this is a fun question for ask. I think this may be my favorite question to ask people. And I ask this to friends if we're just hanging out for a drink, if we're out to dinner, a cup of coffee, whatever we're doing. If you could, forget language barriers, forget all of that. Imagine it's a perfect world. If you could talk, have a conversation, have dinner, have drinks with any one person from art history, forget language barriers, forget all of that, who would it be and why?
You know, there's so many to choose from. I think, well, I mean, I'd love to get back with my Uncle Will, but I think Lauren Harris, and I think he's a Canadian painter. And the reason is he did so much to promote the arts and other artists, and really put Canadian art onto the world stage. And I would just love to have a conversation to hear his ideas on how to do that and how to help other artists achieve their goals. Because I know I've got a lot to learn on that front. So, and other than him, it'd be Da Vinci, of course, but
yeah, it's see, now that's what's fun about that question is, you know, anybody can talk about, you know, the top, you know, 20, 30 different type of people that from art history that everybody's familiar with, right? Michelangelo or Leonardo or all, you know, any of these people. But then it becomes interesting when you get down to like a little nitty gritty, and you kind of like, if you push somebody on that one and say like, okay, forget them for a second, like who else would it be, right? And because then you can kind of like really sit there and get into someone's like you know, psychological, the psyche, if you will, of that person, and say, you know, like what is it that you're kind of like truly about? You know, it's a lot of fun. And it never ceases to surprise me and amaze me, the answers here on this interview platform that I get. So that's fantastic. I'm going to have to look him up because I'm not familiar with his work. Sorry to say. So I'm you know, from a purely selfish standpoint, I get to kind of learn from interviewing everybody here, and I pick up little tidbits. So it's fun. And again, if you're out there watching this, perhaps maybe you are a younger artist. Like this is the kind of learning sometimes that it's not truly learning like as in like in a classroom that you're familiar with being a teacher, but you pick things up as you go along in your life journey. And I think that's why this has taken on the way that it has, just this very informal, fun interview where you're basically just talking about your artistic journey and your thoughts and things of why you do what you do. Because it's almost that sharing of, well, this is what I did, or this is what I think that then, starts a conversation in somebody else's mind, right? And you're an educator, so tell me I'm a little bit off base if I am or not, but like, that stimulation of thought really is the best thing that you could ask for.
Yeah, I can honestly say that well, teaching in different countries with different curriculums, I learned more than I ever taught. Well, one thing I really noticed was how art is taught in North America as opposed to Europe and New Zealand and places like that. And if we actually combined the two ways of teaching art and what they stress, we'd have a much stronger curriculum.
That's a little interesting. Can I ask you to further that a little bit? What are some of the differences that you experienced on this side of the Atlantic as opposed to the other?
Okay. I find that North America really zeroes in and focuses on creativity and uniqueness and experimentation, but it's quick, and it's all supposed to be new and innovative and all of that. I found the Europeans, they put a lot more stress on foundation theory, do this way, that kind of thing. And if you actually take the two where you give the foundation skills and you use art as an artist model, for instance, before they start painting on their own, they've learned different techniques, and they take they have a photograph, a landscape, a building, they choose whatever, and then they take the same picture and paint it in the style of Picasso or a Van Gogh or a Miro. So they have to interpret what they're looking at, but they still have the safety net of looking at the master of how they used color and form and composition and all the principles and elements of design, so that they have to think about how to be Picasso without copying a Picasso. They have to interpret and analyze, and so that their end product ends up being something that is unique in theirs, but it's also in the style of. And then they take what they've learned after doing that 3 or 4 times and create their own image in their own style through experimentation and artist models and stuff like that. So it's just it takes longer to teach that way, but the end product that the students get is far superior than teaching it in either curriculum, if that makes sense. At least that's my personal understanding and experience of it. Yeah, we can learn a lot from looking at how others do things, but not just here in North America, but other places in the world. I think one of my best stories was when I was in Singapore and I was teaching, and I had a young lad from he was born and bred in London, talked like a Cockney, but he was of Indian descent, India. and he came in and he was doing his A-levels art with me, and I was constantly trying to get him to break away from this color scheme of putting oranges and pinks and this mauve color together, and he kept saying it was wonderful, and I was cringing. And then about 2 weeks later, I went into a Hindi temple in Singapore, and I looked around, and there's his color palette. That's what he is. That's his culture. So of course those colors go together in his culture. And so that was my first eye opener of, you know what, I've got a lot of learning. If I'm going to teach internationally, I've got to be a more open to different ways of thinking. So.
Well, I mean, there's so much to unpack there. God, we could spend the next 2 hours just talking about that. No, I will say some of the things that you touched on, I would happen to agree with wholeheartedly. I feel somewhat lucky myself on a personal level, and the art education experience that I got truly was equal parts of what you're talking about. We're going to kind of simplify this in the sense of sort of new and old, right? Older art forms, older thought processes and ideas mixed with something new and contemporary. And I feel very blessed in the sense that I was able to get that. I'm not sure that exists at my alma mater today. And I don't mean that in some sort of negative way. I just mean that in the sense that the professors that were there at that time within the curriculum, I personally had equal parts of that. Now, I was also fortunate enough that my alma mater, Temple University back in Philly, has campuses around the world. So I was able to go overseas and at least get a taste of what it's like to learn from those people, right? So would you say to somebody that is out there maybe earlier in their artistic journey that that is something that they should be seeking out? They should be trying to find whether it's using social media platforms like this, YouTube. I mean, there's all kinds of instructional videos that, golly, you could sit there and type one thing in your search bar and you're going to get, 100 different hits, right? So it's kind of almost impossible to sort of pick like what's, quote unquote, the best. You just have to sort of trial and error that. But would you suggest to somebody that is maybe younger in their artistic practice that that's what they should be seeking? They should be trying to find whether it's in a program at a university or universities. Perhaps they should try to look into going from Micah to RISD to the Art Student League in New York or some other place and just kind of flip-flop around and try to get the best that they can.
Yeah, well, I think exposure, the more exposure you get, the better, and seeing everything live. That was the beauty of living in all those different countries, is you got to live in the culture. It wasn't just a vacation, so it was, you're immersed in it, and it's wonderful. I would suggest anyone to go and try something new. Do they have to move to New Zealand or Singapore to do it? Not necessarily. Just try something new. Always be open to something new. And yeah, you can learn a lot on the internet. It's not the same as being live, but yeah, it's a big world. Some people are not suited for doing what I did, like living in another country. But those that, if you've got that little travel bug like I do, go for it, because it'll just enrich your life. It's amazing.
Well, I once again, you're not going to get any disagreement with me on that. Being able to live in Rome, I went over there, and I mean, I think I knew one or two phrases in Italian just from my time in South Philly. You learn at least a few things from the Italians, but I didn't know how to speak anything. And in fact, I came back, and I'm not nearly fluent, but I still listen to Italian music and I translate songs, and those types of things. Being immersed all of a sudden changes, your either perspective and or your understanding even of certain things. There is nothing like seeing the Tuscan landscape. If you've never been to Tuscany, you can talk about it, you can describe it, you can paint it, you can draw it, but it is not the same as physically boots on the ground, so to speak. So I would completely agree with you on that.
Absolutely.
Now,
I
go ahead. Go ahead.
um, no, and I also think don't be scared to dream big, and go for it. I guess one of the questions that you ask sometimes is, what's your biggest thing that you've done? um, in 2017, Canada turned 150 years old. And it started out as a bit of a lark that we heard on the radio, like, what are you doing for Canada's 150th birthday? Because there were all these events planned and people doing these special personal projects and stuff like that. And they all had 150 attached to them. So what started out as a joke ended up starting in St. John's, Newfoundland, which is kilometer zero or mile zero. And there's basically one road that goes across Canada. It's not like the States, but it goes right across the bottom of the country from east coast to west coast, right to the coast. So we started at kilometer zero, and because we are in kilometers up here, miles. And I traveled the Trans-Canada Highway all the way out to Victoria, BC, which is the farthest west you can go, and stopped exactly every 150 kilometers.
Oh, wow.
To find the subject, to find the subject and inspiration for a painting, and you had to be within 1 kilometer of the dot on the map. And I did all the Google stuff where you find all the latitude, longitude on the highway and stuff. Anyway, it ended up being 51 paintings. Didn't quite know that when I first started, but it was 7,000. What was it? 7,943 kilometers, which is just shy of 5,000 miles across country. And I was doing it while I was teaching full time. At the time, I was teaching at Lower Canada College in Montreal. And aside from, I think it's the coolest art idea I ever had. So at July 1st, 2018, at the end of the birthday celebration on Canada Day, which is like the 4th of July, we had the show and we put it up and we started in Newfoundland and went all the way around the country in order along the highway, and you could see Canada from east to west, which was kind of cool. But what I learned, aside from, I thought it was a big dream, it was a lot of work. You had to produce one painting every 10 days kind of thing. But it was my students' reaction to it. Every time I thought, wow, this is too much teaching, and you've got your family life and stuff. Every time you wanted to quit, there'd be some student that asked you in class, so miss, what did you do this weekend? Let's see how far along you got on your painting. And you'd have to pull it out and talk to them. And they just thought it was so cool that you ended up not letting them down as well as yourself. But that's the kind of thing, if you've got a dream, and for me, I mean, that's my biggest thing I'll ever do. Go for it, figure out how to do it, and start at the end product and walk backwards so that you can chunk it up into steps that are doable, and go for it. Anyway, that's my big advice to students and to those that are starting out, and you have to schedule time. If you're going to be an artist and it's a career and you've chosen to do that, that's your job, is to make art, then you need to schedule time, and you don't break that time. You don't, procrastinate or not do it. The excuse of, oh, I don't feel like it. Pick up a pencil, do 15, 20 minutes. Usually you'll get into it. Or use that time to promote yourself on social media, or catalog your stuff, or write the story behind the artwork, anything like that. That's my second piece of advice to young people of, chase your dream and take yourself seriously and your job. Don't let anybody belittle what you do.
Well, so first and foremost, you beat me to the punch on asking about one of my next favorite questions, which is, what's your biggest accomplishment to date? Great, awesome. So thank you for that. And then, wow, I mean, so talking about two fantastic pieces of advice, words of wisdom, if you will. One being scheduling time. I will tell you that that statement alone rings so true for me. And I'll give credit to my wife. I give credit to her all the time. I don't know if she's still watching, but she was watching. Actually, today is our anniversary. So happy anniversary to her right now. Thank you. I am very laid back. I am that Jimmy Buffett, just sort of carefree kind of guy. And she is the complete opposite. She wants everything on a time schedule. We're doing this, 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 and this, and this, and this, right? That's one of those cases where opposites attract. And we really, truly do pull out sort of the best in each other. She helps me stay on time, and I help her to learn to live on island time a little. At least I try. But I'll say that when I decided that, I needed to make my art my full-time business, I needed to figure out how to do that. It's not, I didn't have an education component that kind of teaches you that, as I've learned so many other people didn't either. But having that dedication of, like when you have a job, you have a start time. I've always had that kind of job where you literally swipe in and swipe out. And my upbringing was in the sense that when you do that and you take that card, or if you punch, back in the day when we used to actually have punches, now it's just all digital, that what you're doing is you're giving your time to that company, that business, that job, whatever, in exchange you're getting money. But the idea is that you have to clock in, and then all of a sudden there's that freeze, right? You're on the clock. And for me, it became very evident to say you need to think of your art practice like that. I have a 9-month-old that I'm the primary caregiver to. So Monday through Friday, I'm with him during business hours while my wife is working. So I tend to come at night, and it's like a physical, turn the light on, and it's like, boom, and I'm personally a big believer in, if it's possible, there's a lot to unpack if it's not, but if you can, to have to go somewhere, like you're going to a job. I don't like the idea of having a home studio space. I've had it, and I had a home studio space for several years. My studio is on my property, but I literally have to go outside, unlock a door, and go into work. And I think that actually holds true for helping kind of keep your feet to the fire, if you will, right? So I'm very much agreeing with you, and I'm furthering that for anybody out there that's watching this, saying, think about that as far as your artistic journey, because I'm totally agreement with that. And then so I think one of the other components to what you were talking about, and if you want to talk a little further about this, we have plenty of time. I think I don't know if you have to be anywhere at any time. This has been a great conversation. I've been having a fantastic time doing this. You're kind of giving a couple of other tidbits of advice as far as dream big. Don't be afraid to sort of reach for the stars, dream, think the unthinkable. These are phrases that kind of came into my particular upbringing and worldview and my education, if you will, as well. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about that as far as it pertains to an art practice, right? Because being an artist sounds fun. The reality is, it is a challenge. I think any of us that are here that are doing this would be the first ones to tell you that it is a blast. I do love it. There are days where I pray to whatever art God will listen to let me just have some normal 9-to-5 job and let me, so it's, talk a little bit about your experiences or any further advice that you may have to give to somebody about that.
When it comes to working, that idea of scheduling time, that was the best advice I ever got from my painting teacher at art school. But when it comes to dreaming big, sometimes you have to baby step on how to dream big, and sometimes when you get stuck, or you get because we all get stuck. I think writers call it writer's block or whatever. One of the other things I've found, that if I go into the studio, which is attached to my house, I will always have a piece on the side to play with. I know when I was teaching and you're introducing materials to students, whatever it was, 9 times out of 10, they hadn't really used them before. And if they had, it was always in a certain way. So we often began class like when you put acrylics out, you put the acrylics out and said, okay, I'm going to give you 20 minutes to play. And I want you to find out and discover what this can and cannot do, but play. And I find that I take that advice, my own advice, back into the studio, and I have something that I can play with. And I know that when I get stuck, I can fiddle with it. It's not going to be a masterpiece. It's just there for me for fun. And 10, 15 minutes, I'm back at my own painting and I'm painting again. And you can't afford to not paint every day, or to paint when you only feel like it. You sometimes have to force yourself to feel like it. So you push. I guess that's one tip. I don't know. It works for me anyway. That's, yeah. Aside from go and see art, talk to artists, network, do everything that you can to discover as much as you can. And I think that's one of the things we fall down on as well in education is we don't teach enough about art appreciation. I don't have to be Da Vinci to appreciate good art. I don't have to be an artist to appreciate it. In fact, most of my students who were art students don't have an art career as a fine artist, but they're often connected to it. And here's an interesting fact. There are more jobs connected to visual art as a high school subject than any other subject taught in high school. And most people don't know that. But if you think about it, everything you touch, everything you eat, everything you use, everything you drive, you wear, all of it has an element of design in it, and that's art. And we don't cherish that, and we don't promote that as much, because whenever something gets cut, it's always the arts. And unfortunately, that's who we are, is often realized through the arts, not just visual art, but music, drama, dance. That's how people really have a sense of community, is often through those things. And I don't think we cherish it enough and promote enough. So anyway, I'm done spouting.
Well, I'll just say, again, you're going to be hard pressed to find me disagree with you on a lot of this, but what you just said there, I tend to have this conversation with friends, sometimes just in my own head as I'm working and sort of just letting the painting evolve in front of me and sort of turning my sort of analytical brain off and just trying to do that connect with spirit, if you will. But I've thought about this often, in that if aliens were to come down, and these little green men were coming down to Earth, and they said, like, explain to me what it is to be human, I think the first thing I would say is creative. It's the best and worst of us, right? But our creativity, our ability to sit there and take something and extrapolate it the way that we do, right? You take the two basic necessities that every living creature on this planet requires, right? Food and shelter. And what do we do with that? We have all of these different things that we do that pertains to those things. And what do we call it? We call it aesthetics, right? The look of the food, the taste of the food, the combinations of this to this, right? It's all points towards creativity, right? And that element, in its purest sense, is art. So in some ways, the pursuit of art really truly is the pursuit of what it is to be human, at least in my humble 2 cents of an opinion. So kind of touching in on that, these are thoughts and conversations that I've had now, either my crazy self as I'm working on a painting at 1 o'clock in the morning, going, I don't know what's going on, but it's all rambling around, in this sort of ether, if you will. So boy, I'll tell you. And again, I'm just going to sit there and continue to say this for the people that are still watching. Hi again, thanks again for tuning in tonight. And if you're watching this, later on, from a purely selfish perspective, I love these conversations, right? I'm enjoying them probably more so than most people because I get to sit there and connect with people and feel like I'm not so crazy. I'm not alone in that ship going, oh, I don't know if anybody else is thinking this either, but I guess here I am. So,
Yeah.
so I guess, we've gone on now for a little bit of time. I'm just going to have one other question. I think that could be a fun question to ask you. And then I guess we'll just kind of allow you to sort of close out by just telling people where else they can see your work, what other shows you have. So the last question we'll go with is, have you ever created something that you refuse to part with? And if so, why?
Yeah. I've got one painting that I've actually, it's my son's now, but it's St. Paul's looking up from the Thames in a mist, but it's all fiery colors. And it's on a personal level. It really hit me because when my dad experienced it for the first time, he kind of went a little white, and I kind of went, "You don't like it?" And he said, "It's the Blitz. It's beautiful. That's the only piece of thing where he lived in London. That's the only piece that survived. Was St. Paul's never got hit." And but he was living in London during the Blitz, and so that for me became a really emotional, personal thing because he loved it so much. So now it's being passed down to my son. But yeah, that one piece.
That's fantastic. We have James Ellison, who we had an interview with last week, said a good book on art being essential to humanity is Your Brain on Art. So I'm definitely going to have to check that out. Thank you, James, for suggesting that. I don't know if you're familiar with that text or not, but I'm always interested in a different coffee table book, if you will, that to check out and to kind of see if that could expand some horizons. So the floor is yours here to kind of close this out. It's been a fantastic conversation, by the way. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on here and talk with me. I learned a lot. I had a great time. I always do, but some conversations are just that much extra special than others, and it's been a blast for me personally. I do think it's a kind of just a fun little wink and a nod to be like, the one Canadian in the American Artist Professional League is here with us tonight. So that's a little bit of fun. So for anybody that's out there that maybe near the Canadian border, where can they see your work? Do you have any other shows? We know that one piece is going to be in the GNE in New York in November. Yeah. Where can people see more of your work at? Are you online? Talk a little bit about where people can see more of your stuff.
Yeah. My husband's American. Does that help?
Yeah, you know what? That's good. That's it. You know, you're American by default.
Yeah, kind of, sort of. Yeah, I have 4 galleries that represent me. There's Arta Gallery in Toronto, Gallery 203 in Montreal, Perth has Studio 87 Gallery in Perth, and 53 Gallery in Laguna Beach. So those 5. So I've got, my shows are mostly done now. I'm going to the Grand National. But other than that, I don't have anything scheduled for right now. So working for next year. If anybody's
out there, so they can come to New York in November and see the work in person at the Sound Lagundi Club at the Grand National exhibit. We're going to be there. I can't wait to see the painting. We're going to do a special Instagram live there as well. But you're online here on Instagram. You have a website as well. People can see their work there.
Yeah. It's just my name, carolloeb.weebly.com. I'm on Instagram as Carol Loeb Artist or carolloeb.artist. I have Facebook, but I don't keep up with my Facebook as much as I do the Instagram.
That's okay. I think that's kind of true of a lot of us. I keep Facebook so I can watch clips of Blue Bloods and other TV shows on when I'm on my phone. So I get it. I hate to say it, but I get it. I post it on Instagram, and it connects to the Facebook, so it's there, and I try to use it, but there's only so much time in the day.
That's true. You
Well,
have a really super anniversary tonight.
oh well, thank you. Thank you.
Oh.
We're about to go for a walk on the beach if it's not raining too hard, which it looks kind of misty out here right now, but it's not that bad. So thank you again
Yep.
so much for coming and talking with us tonight. I so appreciate it. And again, if you're out there watching right now, thank you again for tuning in every Thursday, 5 o'clock here on the American Artist Professional League Instagram. We're going to come to you live and with another member. Maybe not another Canadian American one, but another artist here at the American Artist Professional League. And thank you again very much for coming on tonight. And I will definitely see you in your work in November.
Yes, I will be in New York.
All right, we'll see you then. Bye-bye, everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.